Hi everyone, it's Neve here and welcome to my art journaling channel. Today we're going to be exploring mark making again using abstracts. Now today we're going to be using the Dina Wakley heavy bodied acrylic paints in a whole variety of colours. So the first one I'm applying to my page is the elephant, and I'm now going in with some of the black gesso. This is all being done in the Dina Wakley art journal, and it's on the cotton rag substrate, which isn't one of my favourites, I have to say. I thought it probably would be my favourite in the book, and I've actually found that I love working on the canvas better. It's a funny textured paper. It's not so much the texture that I don't like, it's the absorption rate. It absorbs everything really, really quickly. Not very good for taking inks, so you do have to pre-prepare your page. Now for this, because I knew I was working with acrylics, I haven't actually gessoed the page, and I'm working very wet on wet, so I'm not worrying about the colours mixing up together. So at the moment I've applied the greys, the elephant, the black gesso, the blue sky, there's blushing is that corally colour, fuchsia is pink, this one's ocean. My paintbrush is fairly wet. I am washing it off, and you'll see to the side I've got my used up journal. So if I've got any paint left on my brush after and cleaning it off, I just put it in there, and that's another background for another day. The colour I'm applying now is called Marine, which is one of my favourites. It's a very, very dark tealy turquoisey colour. It's really, really handy. And the final colour I'm applying is the Ruby Red. The Ruby Red is an amazing red colour, but it is actually quite translucent. You can see down the bottom, you can see through to the other colours, but it just does stand out as a really, really red colour. So I dried off my paint, and now all I'm doing is going back in with the Posca paint pens. Now Posca paint pens are a paint pen with an acrylic paint in them. They are fairly opaque, but you can see down the bottom, particularly with yellow, by going over it you get much more a much more opaque colour. And all I'm doing is just picking out different shapes that I can see in my page that I want to fill in with pattern. Now I've done this before, a similar technique using watercolour and using the splodges of watercolour as a container for my mark making. In this piece that I did, I started off doing that, sort of using the container for the patterns, but with the crosses you can see I branched out, and I started in one area and branched out, and I really loved that effect and I wanted to use that more. And just taking that little bit of leap of it doesn't have to be contained, you can spread it out and change the marks in the container. I started with circles and then went to dashes. So this was a lot of experimentation. A lot of it was inspired by an Instagram artist called Janet Skate Art. If you look her up, she's got amazing abstract art using lots of mark making and lots of colours in the background. Now there was no thought process to this. I didn't know what colours I was going to use when I started. I didn't know what patterns I was going to use. I had no idea how this is going to turn out. It was very intuitive, of just looking at it, thinking what needs to go where. And you can see my hand pause as I think about what's going to go into the next section. Now for most of this page it was dry, but with this pattern in the corner I hadn't dried off the area enough. And with the cotton rag paper, if it's not dry enough and you're trying to drag a pen over the top, it does tend to catch and peel a little bit, so just be aware of that. When I was doing this, I was trying to, particularly with the pens over the top, do sort of 3 different patterns or 3 splashes of colour, and I kind of got a little bit distracted as I was doing it. So I noticed that with pink I'd only done one part, with blue I've just gone back and done the other 3 parts. So I'm trying to, as I go along, fill up 3 different areas with 3 different marks in the same colour. Now the wheels kind of fall off that at some stage. I don't necessarily keep up with that, but that was the only real rule I had in my head as I was doing this. What I'm really enjoying doing as I'm going along is varying the size and the shapes of my marks. So you can see that with the yellow circles, having those large and small together, with the blue dots, again varying them, and even with these little U shapes. And when I've done pattern making in the past, I've tried to keep it very, very consistent, obviously to try and make a pattern. But I'm finding the more and more I play with it, it looks a little bit more organic if you do change the shapes and change the sizes. It gives a little bit more interest. The other thing that I really loved as I was doing this, and I started off with that red strip in the middle, is starting the pattern, letting it be broken by another pattern, then continuing along the page. And you see I repeated that up the top with the white. It just helped to tie the page together and give your eye something to follow as it went around the page, because it is quite a busy page, but if you can sort of lead your eye around the page as you go, it helps out enormously. The one bit I didn't really like about this as I was doing it was the black food ball pen on the pieces of red. I don't know why, it just seemed to dull down the colour somewhat. But this is what it was all about, having a go, trying out different things. I like the red spot on the left hand side where I sort of drag off the colour and I don't fill the whole spot in, because I am a terror for trying to fill in everything. I struggle with white space. I would love to be able to create a piece that has that beautiful white space either running through it or on the edges. And you can see now with the white pen I'm going back and filling in that spot that I really liked. So that's one of the things that I really want to focus on, trying to incorporate that white space. And up the top, when I'm doing the black dots up here, that's where I wasn't trying to get white space, but starting off with a very contained pattern and then spreading it out. Now you've just seen me bang my book. When I was using my paint pen, I was pressing down it and extra paint flooded out, which I quite liked, and I thought I'd like to try some drips. So I got out my acrylic ink and dripped it down the page, which is what you can see now, and I've just tipped it up so it actually runs down the page. I'm adding some water into the drips just to help it run down to the bottom, and on my extra piece of paper in the background, that's my, just shove it in the background so it doesn't bleed through. You can see I bent it into an L shape so those drips could be caught down the bottom. Because of the cotton rag being so absorbent, I moved that piece of paper down from the edge so the drips wouldn't actually sit at the bottom, because I knew it would soak up into the paper, and you can see that when I turn it around to the next page. I decided I wanted to put some extra white into it, and I used a white acrylic paint, but when I did it I really hated it, and it combined with the black, because I hadn't dried the black off enough, that it created a really ugly grey. So I blotted it off with my paper towel and then went back with the black just to add extra black to it. Now I have to admit, as I was doing this, I was looking at it going, oh, I really liked this before and I've really mucked it up by putting all this black on it. I can't stand it now. But I put it down to, it's a learning curve. You wanted to have a play, you've had a play, you've seen what happens with it. So now I'm going back in with the paint pens just to brighten things up and just to finish it off a little bit. But it's amazing what happens when you leave something overnight and come back to it the next day. Sorry, you can see in the rag paper where it's bled through, but that's okay because I'll paint over it with something else. When I came back the next morning to look at it, the colours looked so vibrant, and that black actually really tied the piece together and made it look complete. So I hope you enjoyed this process video. I had lots of fun doing this. That's the one thing I love about abstract, is there's no right or wrong. You can't make a mistake. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, and if you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to my channel, click the bell, and I will see you hopefully in the future. Thanks for watching.